So, have you ever been locked out of your car or your apartment? Imagine you're on vacation and your phone battery's low and you get locked out of your car or your apartment or your condo, wherever you happen to be staying. And imagine this happens and you need help fast. Well, that happened to me and my wife in Florida, and it ended up costing us $425 to get back into our condo. In this video, I'd like to share a little bit about our story with our locksmith scam and hopefully help you avoid it. And I actually knew better, but a lot of things happened in this situation that put us in the state that we were in. All right, so first of all, it all started. We drove probably 15 hours to get to our condo in Florida, and we arrived pretty late at night. The next day we were really tired, and we decided that, you know what, we'll just get a DoorDash order, make it easy, no problem. And this was like around lunchtime, so we figured no problem. And then I get a phone call from the DoorDash driver, and he happens to mention to me that there's a parade, there's some sort of pedestrian parade going down Gulf Boulevard, which I thought was kind of odd. I mean, what's that all about? It was on a Saturday. To this day, I'm not sure exactly what it was about, but he was stuck behind it. He couldn't really pass. There was a fire truck, and he wasn't able to pass. So the driver called to let us know that he was going to be a little bit over time. So my wife decided she'd go meet the driver near the gate. There's a gate entry into the complex, and we did give the DoorDash driver the code so that he could come in, but we thought, well, we'll save him some time, try to meet him out there. I stayed back at the condo with the two dogs. So what happened is the driver actually, at some point he was able to pass this parade. They were letting cars around because it was quite a traffic jam. It's just a 2-lane road through on the island here, on Santa Rosa Island. So he was able to get into the complex. My wife missed him at the gate. She didn't really know what he looked like. Just, it's a DoorDash driver, so it's hard to tell. So anyhow, the driver came into the building, came up to the floor, and he had the condo number. But what happened is he walked both wings of the building. There's a left wing and a right wing on the floor that we were on, and he was unable to find our condo number. And it didn't dawn on me, but the maintenance crew had removed, there's like an outer screen door that has all the condo numbers on it. And unfortunately, ours was being repainted at the time, so there was no condo number. And it didn't dawn on me. I mean, this was our first morning there. We didn't really understand it. So the driver went back down to the lobby, downstairs lobby, and gave me a phone call. Says, hey, I walked both sides. I couldn't find your room. And I was really feeling pretty bad for the driver at this point because he had already gone over his time. He was spending quite a bit of time, trying to deliver our order, got stuck in this parade, tried walking both wings of the building, couldn't find me. And I'm like, man, I feel really bad for this guy. And then ended up giving him a better tip, too. I mean, that's just how I am. But just in a split second, I thought, well, I'm going to go run down there and meet you. I'll just reach you in the lobby and grab the food. Everything will be great. Well, of course, I went out the door. At least I had my cell phone on me, but it was only 10% charged. And it's one of these door locks where you've got the little knob, the little thing on the inside of the doorknob, that if you turn it horizontal, it locks the door. Well, apparently when I grabbed it, I must have flipped it. A lot of times when I grab one of those kinds of doorknobs, sometimes I'll accidentally flip that to the locked position. I didn't even think to grab the key. I just shut the door, had the two dogs in the condo, and I went on down to the lobby, grabbed the food, came up, tried the door, and realized, ooh, it's locked. I can't get in. So really, that's where we ended up. So again, I didn't have a key. My wife didn't have a key. Now, there was a lockbox outside of the condo, and one of the things we talked about, but we didn't get to it at that moment, we were going to put a key back in the lockbox, so in case something like that happened, we would have a key on the outside. We could get into the lockbox with the code, get the key, and everything would be great. Well, you can imagine after that long day of travel, it was early, the next day, we're still exhausted, we're not thinking clearly, we failed to do it. So I had about 10% battery on my phone. My wife had about 30%. And we were in a bad situation. The two dogs were in the condo. We started calling around. Um, I've heard all the stories before. When you do a Google search and you see AAAA or A to Z or ABC, Locksmith, those kinds of things. I mean, they purposely put these ads in there that are, misleading. And what you end up getting really is a call generation center. That's really a lead generation center is what you end up getting when you call these places. Now, we had several conversations. I actually called a couple places. My phone died in the middle of this while I was trying to look things up. My wife still had a little bit of battery life left, so she was doing the best she could. We were in a bad situation with the phones the way they were. So she got a hold of a couple places. One guy she talked to directly, who might have been a real legitimate guy. He sounded like he was actually a locksmith, and we weren't going through one of these lead generation call centers. But he said it was going to be about 4 hours. So we thought, well, we don't want to leave the dogs in there for 4 hours. So we kept checking around, and we were told that, hey, it's going to be an hour and a half from this other place. And I was pretty convinced when we were talking to this guy that he was from one of these lead generation centers and not a real locksmith. He was basically contracting out, whoever he could get a hold of. And it went on and on for a long time. And, after an hour and a half, then we were told, well, it's going to only be an hour. Well, the communication with them was really poor. And the other thing, too, is my wife had asked the question, like, well, what's this going to cost? Well, of course, the phone was disconnected before we ever got the answer. We never got a price quoted. So what happened is the technician eventually showed up about a little over 2 hours later, unlocked the door, and then said, hey, it's $425. So yeah, not a good situation. My suggestion is don't get yourself in this situation to begin with. We were in a situation where we were stressed. We had, limited phone. We didn't know anybody really there at the time. We ended up meeting some great neighbors next door to the condo we're in, which was great. But we were under a lot of pressure. We had the dogs locked in. We were like the perfect targets for a scam like this. And we needed to get back into the room. So what else can we do? So one of the things to keep in mind is that when you're looking at, say, a Yellow Pages, that's kind of the old school thing, but if you're doing a Google search, just realize a lot of these so-called locksmith companies that you'll see with ads, the slick-looking ads, and may even have a slick-looking website, they're really nothing more than lead generation call centers. They're not legitimate locksmith companies, and I have no idea what state they're going to be in. Even if they're in the United States, I'm making assumptions there, as a matter of fact. But these are basically call centers that are contracting people out, and then you're getting stuck with a huge bill at the end. Some of these places will even do things like they'll advertise $19 to unlock your door, a $29 service fee, that type of thing. Well, we didn't even really see that. We were on the phone. We didn't have time to scroll websites in our situation. But a lot of times you'll get these kind of $19 deals, and then you find out at the end that the bill skyrockets. Well, in our case, we weren't even given a quoted price over the phone. So right there, that's a bad sign. We'll say too, there's a lack of licensing enforcement in a lot of cases with these locksmiths. The rules are weak. My understanding is here in Florida that there are some rules in place, but the enforcement is sometimes considered very weak when it comes to these locksmith companies. Now, I don't know. This is the first time I've run into this situation, so if any of you out there have any experience like this, I'd love to hear your story as well. So a lot of times what you'll have is you'll have fake local listings, you'll have multiple local phone numbers listed, things like that, but they all lead back to a central call center, one of these lead generation call centers. Now, in some cases, I understand a lot of these places will ask for cash only, payment up front, things like that. Now, in our case, we were able to use a credit card payment for this, and we'll see what happens. My wife actually argued over the phone with the call center, and they claimed they were going to discount $100 off of it. So instead of $425, it was going to go to $325. Well, I haven't seen that happen yet, and I'm not really that optimistic about it, but we'll see what happens. I may have an update on this in a few days. I would say, if I had to do it over again, I'd probably do a little bit more pre-planning. You can see with the situation we were in, there wasn't a lot of pre-planning. We were tired. It was our first day there. But one good idea would be to figure out where a reputable locksmith is in the area that you're going to vacation and or be in. We're not that familiar with the area and the businesses, but it's good to try to research some of that ahead of time. Even save the phone number to your phone in case you need him. I've been on vacation for years. I've never needed a locksmith like this. I've been locked out of cars before, things like that. But on vacation, this is the first time it's happened. But believe me, I'm going to think twice the next time I do this. You also might be able to check with the Department of Agriculture or Commercial Services. I believe that's where you want to check here in Florida. Actually, I meant to say Consumer Services. I don't know if I mentioned that, but either the Department of Agriculture or Consumer Services. Make sure they're licensed. Ask for a written estimate if you can, or at least have one emailed to you. We probably should have done that. We were kind of in a panic mode. We were tired. We weren't thinking clearly. Fortunately, that's where a lot of these places prey on people, and we ended up being the prey. Now, it was always my understanding that a typical residential type lockout is like $75 to $150. Now, their claim was, well, gee, this is a vacation area. Why it would go all the way up to $425 for, a simple lockout like that, I have no idea. I really don't think that's common, but please leave me your comments. If you've been through this before, this is the first time that I've been through it. My wife's been through this. But if you guys have any suggestions or comments, I'd love to hear those and love to find out what you've been through. So I want to say we learned a very expensive lesson here, paying $425 for a locksmith. So might say, don't let this happen to you. Spend a little bit of time when you go on vacation, maybe look up, as part of your vacation planning, look up a locksmith, a reputable locksmith. Maybe make contact with them before you even travel. You may never need it. I've been vacationing for years. I've never needed it. But when you do need it, it can get very expensive if you're not dealing with a reputable company. You might get taken, go through the same kind of thing that we did. So please, I would love to hear your comments if you've had any experiences with locksmiths, reputable, even unreputable. I realize there are really good guys out there who are locksmiths. I know somebody personally who was a locksmith for many years, very reputable guy. Unfortunately, you have some of these lead generation centers, these call centers that really put a bad mark on everybody else. So I'm not here to claim that all locksmiths are bad in any way. I know there's a lot of good guys out there that do a lot of good work, but this kind of stuff is really, really tarnishing the profession in my opinion. But I'd love to hear your comments, and if we run into any more things like this, consumer protection type things, I typically haven't done a lot of videos on that topic, but when something like this comes up, I will share the experience. So love to hear your experiences as well, and I hope this has been helpful. And I probably would have done well too if I would have had my portable charger at least with me when I walked outside the door, but it was like a last second thing. So anyhow, if any of this has been helpful to you, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. And please check out some of the other content, some of the other playlists here. Typically, I'm covering technological things, technology. But every once in a while one of these topics comes up, and I can't resist the urge to comment about it. So anyhow, please like, share, subscribe, and look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.